Hey folks, Post here, welcome back to another Pokemon Masters video, and in this video we're going to do something a bit different. We're going to try and rank the effectiveness of these, of all the expanded Synchros that came out so far, right? Not so much as, you know, which one is better, right? Which unit is better, but how much better their Synchrids make these units in comparison to what they were before. Just so, you know, how much of a leap that they've had in comparison to pre-Synchrid versions, right? So, anyways, let's get into this. So, not that serious of a list because it's honestly it's quite subjective. Now that I think about it, right? So, yeah, we're gonna have, I think, 5 tiers total, right? Each tier is gonna have, I think, around 2 or 3, depends on the tier, right? So let's get into this. So starting from the bottom, I guess, D tier. Again, this is just how much of a leap they've gotten, or how much of an increase or buff they've gotten from their Synchrid, right? Not how good they are, because Dugong's actually pretty decent, but Dugong's Synchrid just didn't really help it that much. The biggest benefit Dugong honestly got from its Synchrid is probably just a bunch of stat boosts, you know, a lot of special attack boosts, which is really nice, and speed boosts, right? You know, these are still good, but, you know, Dugong didn't get any fantastic passives or you know, special skills added on. Another thing that Dugong did get, however, is a legitimate route for using Ice Beam, right? So you could legitimately make an Ice Beam build and make Dugong not reliant on Icy Wind anymore. So if you do want to make a Ice Beam build, although we can't really do it right now because Frozen Synergy are both locked behind your third sync at the moment, but you know, once you get those unlocked, right, you could legitimately run some kind of like Ice Beam build with a Dugong, right? So that's, I guess, another upside for Dugong, except as I show this, we do not have enough energy left for a complete one. But anyways, point being, the increase that Dugong got from its Synchrid isn't that crazy, right? Like, what else you got? Like a bunch of like hail stuff, and like a lot of these hails aren't even like good hails. Like Snow Shelter, Healing Hail. I mean, I guess Invigorating Hail's not bad, but like really, Healing Hail? So yeah, unfortunately Dugong didn't get too much of a boost. I mean, Dugong's still not bad, right? You know, it's probably one of the better strikers in the game, but unfortunately it just didn't get too much of a boost here. So coming in also tied with Dugong in D tier is unfortunately Haxorus. I had high hopes for a Haxorus, right? I thought Haxorus could have been, you know, much better. It could make Outrage usable, right? And it did kind of make Outrage usable. It did have Quick Cure, right, which is great for Outrage. If you do want to use Outrage, you got a move gauge regen for Outrage, which obviously helps. And then you got Outrage Confusion Boon, which is locked under its second dupe, which we can't get at the moment. But, you know, once we get that, it would make Outrage a bit more usable. But everyone's building Haxorus on a Dragon Claw build, right? There's no point going for, honestly, there's no point going for Outrage build. Dragon Claw build is just much better. It did make it, you know, it's kind of similar to what Dugong got. Like, it got more stats and gave it a alternate route for, you know, for attacking. Now it could use a Dragon Claw set, right, which is just pretty nice. I mean, we don't have much options for physical Drag type strikers, so it does take that role, right? So Haxorus, good again, like Dugong, not bad, but oh, I'd say Dugong is much better, but just didn't get much of a boost, right? So moving on into C tier, like, honestly, all these got great boosts, so it's just my, you know, personal taste on these. So for C tier, we got first of all Vileplume, and this is a bit controversial just because, you know, Vileplume got like so many good stuff here, but unfortunately, like, energy is limited, so like you can't get all the good stuff in here, right? Obviously. And if, you know, from the energy that you can expand, you could get a lot of really interesting stuff, but it's not anything insane. It's not Torkoal level insane, right? You know, big, you know, problem with Vileplume still is it doesn't have crit, right? That, you know, that that's a huge problem for its damage, right? Unfortunately, but like you got paralysis synergy, confusion synergy, you got a Sunspore Flabbergast, right? These are all great stuff, right? The Sunspore, the move that also gives lower special attack with Stun Spore, right? Even though not a lot of builds use it, but you know, it's an option. Vileplume has a lot of options. Unfortunately, it just doesn't have enough energy to use them all, and you just have to kind of pick and choose, right? But it's a great boost for Vileplume, right? As you can see. So, anyways, moving on to the other, I guess C tier is the other grass type, Synchros Superior. So Superior got a lot of really interesting stuff. So, again, some people are still trying to go for a DPS route, which I really don't agree with going for. It's just much better if you just go ahead and make it a better version of the already great support Superior, right? It has move gauge refresh on where is it on, if I could find it, time to energize, that's what it's called. Yeah, it got 2 or 3 time to energize move gauge refreshes, which is absolutely huge. Like, I've seen people get like 2 time to energize refreshes on 1 use. Like, wow. Like, also, for those of you who don't know, these are calculated separately, right? So if you're down to like 1 out of 2 time to refresh uses, and then like you use it once, you get like, you could potentially get 2 back and just get right back to 2 out of 2. Like, I've seen people go a full match without running out of time to energizes. Like, it's just infinite time to energize spam, and move gauge is extremely crucial in this game, right? Especially after the co-op changes. I almost said new co-op changes, but I mean, it's been like a month or so now, so it's not that new anymore. But yeah, especially after the co-op changes, move gauge has been much more useful, especially in co-op, right? So time to energize, one of the best support moves in the game. Obviously with an increase over here, helps a lot. And also with X special attack all not move gauge refresh, MP refresh. Did I just say move gauge refresh this whole time? MP refresh, right? That makes it possible for Superior to get +6 special attack to your whole team without having to bring like an extra special attack booster, because you know, sometimes you know, when you're building certain teams for like Mewtwo, right? Mewtwo's a good example for this. You have to like pick and choose. Either you want like full well, I guess Mewtwo's not that, or yeah, I guess Mewtwo's a good example. Like, either you want like full +6 special attack, or you want like only +4 special attack, and then like a, you know, a Delibird or some kind of speed booster, right? But now with that, Superior could just go ahead and X attack all, and then hopefully get MP refreshes for that, and then your Mewtwo will very likely, well, 30% chance, right? Actually, well, no, you get to use it twice, so it's not 30%, but you have a really good chance of getting +6 special attack for Mewtwo, and you don't have to worry about a move gauge issue anymore, or speed issue anymore either, since you got insane amounts of MP refresh on your time to energize. So that's for the C tiers. Really great improvements in my opinion, right? Moving on to the D tiers, we got first of all, we're gonna go talk about Metagross. So Metagross, the reason why Metagross isn't any higher is, like, this is insane. The Eagle Eye 9 Bullet Punch skill is absolutely insane. But the only issue is it's like after it megas, because you don't get Bullet Punch before you mega, so it doesn't solve like the root problem for Metagross, which is, you know, before it megas, it's just not that spectacular, right? But once you do get its mega, like, this is huge, right? And you also have stuff like Haymaker, which you know, powers up your sync, which is very important for Metagross in my opinion, right? Because since, like I've said before, usually after you mega, the game's about over. And like that's like Metagross's biggest hit is on its sync move, right? And also you got the sync move boost for Metagross, which is great as well. And you also give it an option to, I guess, make it semi-usable before it megas with some kind of like Meteor Mash build plus like Haymaker, right? and then like more sync stuff, right? So that makes it also slightly usable before it syncs. It still doesn't solve the issue of it, you know, of Metagross before it syncs, but it makes it slightly better, right? And you got, you know, 2 move gauge refreshers with that as well. So there's that, and just like the standard increases in like your Iron Head, right? That's even just standard increases are just great for Metagross. But again, biggest issue with Metagross, you just, you know, these boosts are great, but most of them are just used after it megas, and after you mega, battle's usually over. So moving on to the other tied at you know, in B tier, I'm gonna go over to Infernape. So Infernape's interesting, right? Unfortunately, a lot of us haven't seen its full potential just because Critical Strike and Sharp Entry, you know, they're both locked behind your other sync, which I don't think Sharp Entry is that big of a deal. Like, it's great, but it's not like anything insane, right? But you got like some really good stuff like Critical Strike. You got no, not Agile Entry, Endurance, right? Another Endurance over here, and then you also have just you know, in comparison, or not in combination with Power Reserve for Infernape, right? That just works really well. And most importantly for Infernape, you got Fire Blast accuracy up. You got 2 of those. That just completely fixes Infernape. Completely fixes Infernape, right? Because biggest issue with Infernape, like, Infernape was really good before the Sync Grid expansion, but the biggest issue was always the accuracy on Fire Blast, and now they completely solved that, right? And you also got MP refreshes on Dire Hit, right? So you get 100% crit on that as well if you want. Speedy Entry is great. That's a great move, right? Only 5 energy as well, right? And then even if you don't want that, you could go for like a Fire Punch build with Infernape, so that's a huge plus over there as well, right? So Infernape got a really great buff here. So those are the B tiers. Moving on to A tier. A tier, first of all, let's talk about Kingdra. Kingdra used to be like an absolute potato. Like, there was almost no reason to use Kingdra outside of like EX Skyla, right? And Kingdra was Kingdra wasn't even optimal in EX Skyla. Like, it was like a backup plan for EX Skyla back then when EX Skyla was, wait, not Skyla, Rosa. When EX Rosa was still difficult, right? And now it's really great with the new Synchro expansion, right? You have options if you want to go like a Dragon Breath route, right? You could go with that. It's not terrible, right? I don't think you know, you got Hostile Environment with that if you want, so that's not a terrible option. You got some rain stuff which you could play around with. You have Raging Rain, which is great, even though I don't think it's the biggest deal. And you also got Dragon Guard, which is really good for Kingdra, since like most scenarios where you'd play Kingdra is against Dragon type enemies anyways, and since you're playing them against Dragon type enemies in co-op, if you guys don't know how aggro works, in co-op, the sync pairs that are that the enemy is special or super effective against, they draw the aggro, so you're gonna get the aggro if you're using Kingdra in any of the Dragon type co-ops, which is one of the big issues with Kingdra as well, right? You know, you're only going to use it against Dragon type co-ops anyways, and then you're gonna get hit every time. But Dragon Guard does help that quite a bit, right? Especially when they're using Dragon type moves. So, you know, they don't always use Dragon type moves, but when they do, and that's when it counts, right? And I haven't even gotten like to the good stuff yet. So we got a lot of the Draco Meteor boost, right? We got an accuracy boost for Draco Meteor, which is great. And locked under its level 3 sync, you got Draco Meteor Status Quo, has a good chance of returning the user's lowered stats to normal when a move is successful, which is great. And then you also got Special Reserve, so when you're you know, in a pinch, that raises +6 special attack, which is pretty insane. So a lot of really good stuff for Kingdra, right? It used to be just absolutely terrible, but now it's just much better with the so got Dire Rain as well. Dire Rain, if you wanna, you know, if you're making a rain build with Raging Rain, Dire Rain, that saves you one crit buff from yourself, right? Moving on, Pikachu's a really good one as well, right? The Pikachu, you can make a Potion Masters build, right, which is pretty good. It's just that it doesn't have that much use at the moment. In the meta, there just isn't as, you know, hard stages that really require it, but it's really good in the right situations. But also, you know, going for a Thunderbolt build, because like Pikachu is a striker. People keep on forgetting that Pikachu is a striker, and it does like potato damage. Like Pikachu was like top 5 worst strikers in the game before this, and now with all these like Thunderbolt buffs, the special attack stat buffs, I know like for Pikachu it's only like most of you know, for the most part, a lot of it is attributed to like the power-ups and stat buffs, which seems no different from, you know, what was it again, Dugong, right? But it's actually kind of huge for Pikachu in comparison. And it's not only that, right? You got a power reserve, right? You got power reserve with endurance, right? Pikachu does have endurance, and you could also throw in 2 unyieldings with that as well, right? And then you also got stuff like paralysis energy, which is huge. You also got a hostile environment with your Thunderbolt, making it easier to paralyze, right? You got actually 2 different power reserves. So if you like want to run like a full endurance set, like in case your opponent's about to sink, and then you just swap Pikachu in, just make their sync move, hit Pikachu down to in a pinch, and then like 2 power reserves, huge power reserves, and then paralysis energy, hostile environment, Thunderbolt. It's gonna hurt a lot. So Pikachu got much better. It was like basically unusable. Like, who would ever use Pikachu before this Synchro expansion? Honestly, who ever used Pikachu, right? So there you go. Another A tier Synchro buff. So a last A tier Synchro buff we're gonna talk about is Mew. Mew is insane. It's Synchro. Like, it doesn't like you know, in comparison, like a lot of its sets, like it's not the best, right? A Fire Blast set, it's not as good as an Infernape, you know, max Synchro, or you know, a Thunder set. It's not as efficient as a Pikachu Thunderbolt set, or even a Zebstrika, right? But it just gives you so much versatility, right? Especially for folks who don't have you know, the luck to pull a lot of the, you know, great 5-star strikers, right? Or don't have the time to grind Sync Orbs for all these different units, right? You know, that's like Blizzard, that's like a Dugong max Synchro. Fire Blast is like a Torkoal or Infernape max Synchro, and then Thunder, like that's a Pikachu, right? Or like a Zebstrika if you don't have that. Or whatever, right? And then you also got the option for Psychic for those who didn't, who couldn't pull, or not pull Mewtwo, or didn't play when the Mewtwo event was still around. This is a really solid Psychic option, right? And then you also got like a Swift build, which, you know, in some stages where you can actually lower opponent's stats, this would be really good to use, right? It's an AoE stat decreasing build. And then you also got like the huge Sync Nuke, which you guys already saw, or guys haven't seen it, you know, check it out, check the video on the channel. Great I was just about to say fun again, but it's also really good set where you could just one-shot EX bosses like they're like some kind of joke, right? So Mew got a huge improvement from its you know, Synchro as well, right? Before the Synchro, like Mew wasn't like terrible, but it just struggles in like all these well, not all of them, especially, you know, Blizzard, Thunder, and the Fire Blast scenarios. And then you also got like Weather Surge, where you could use it with like Dirty Fighting. So many things with Mew. I could talk about this for like another half hour, right? Which we're not going to. So moving on to the S tier here, the biggest improvement is Torkoal. Torkoal used to be an absolute useless unit. Like, it only ever got used once in like Solgaleo, the Solgaleo event, when, you know, you could burn it and actually did some damage with the burn. But outside of that, like, who ever used Torkoal for anything, right? Most, or, you know, back then, most, not now, you know, after the change, but, you know, back then, most EX challenges, you couldn't burn them. Torkoal does nothing for damage, right? Like, it didn't do anything. But now with Synchro boost, Like Torkoal, you got like so many Ember nodes. Like Ember does like insane amounts of damage for only 1 gauge. And then you also got burn synergies, you got critical strike, and then you got MP refresh for if I could find it, too hot to handle to get 100% crit, right? And then just all these burn nodes, all these burn nodes that it got, right? You also have power chain if you want. There's 2 power chain nodes, actually 3 power chain nodes. Never mind. Holy crap, 3 power chain nodes. If you ever wanted, you got fortuitous. You can make a fortuitous like pass it on build once we get the that last stoop. Torkoal went from like bottom 5 sync pairs in the game period to like top 5 strikers in the game. How insane is that? How insane is Torkoal's improvement, right? Huge improvement for Torkoal in terms of its sync grid, right? So anyways, that's me for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Again, purely subjective, right? And a lot of these are super close. Like the only like ones that I don't think are that close is like between D tier and C tier, but like C tier all the way to like C tier and B tier are really close. B tier, A tier are close. A tier and S tier are close. Like these are all really close. So anyways, again, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Like, enjoy this video, subscribe to the channel for some more promo messages content, and I'll see you guys in the next one.